Paul McGuire Grimes, ABC Minneapolis. Danielle, I'm just so excited to talk to you today. Your performance is incredible, remarkable, and I was just so moved to tears. I do not cry easily. So thank you for this. Thank you for the time, and thank you for telling the
Thank
story.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, now I'm curious, when you get a script like this, do you say, I don't think I can get into that kind of headspace, or do you say, I'm all in, I need to tell this story?
It's a bit of both. Oh, I get the script. I'm gonna put this away. I'm not gonna do it right now. I'll read it later. Okay, you read half of it. You go, oh crap. Okay, yeah, this is moving this way. And you put it away some more, and then you go back. Oh shoot, this is that script. And then it's a discomfort because you consider what you're going to have to go through in order to bring this story to light in the most genuine, the most authentic, the most rigorous and disciplined way. Because I know how I want to work. I know how, I know what this story means. And I've just been a part of this community, the civil rights community in Atlanta, and the history by working with SCLC for so long. Since I was a kid, I went to Cascade United Methodist Church, where Dr. Joseph Lowry was the pastor. And, Dr. Joseph Lowry started SCLC with Dr. King. Dr. King was deeply impacted by the story of Mamie Till and Emmett Till. And so I know what the depth of it is. And there is trepidation. And then once you say yes, and you just dive in even more. And so that was the experience. Yeah.
I love this history, and I love the both there that you were talking about. Did you get to talk to anyone in the Till family directly to get that kind of firsthand experience of what Mamie and Emmett went through and who they were like as people?
Yeah, no, I did not talk to family. I talked to Keith Beauchamp, though, who is one of our producers and co-writers of the film. And Keith he was a mentee of Mamie Till. And so I was able to understand a real core quality of who she was, a woman who was extremely determined, who was brilliant, and I hope that's all very evident in the experience of the film. And I did a host of other things, deep diving in research, theses, archival footage, archival photography, just a wealth of knowledge in that regard from an academic perspective, and then from his more intimate and nuanced ideals of and experiences of her. Those things just collided together to create, what the knowledge base that I was having.
I mean, you feel it. I felt like I knew who Mamie was, and just to see what she must have gone through, especially knowing the open casket, I see her in you. Now, for those that say that was 1955, that wouldn't happen today, that was a different time, what would you say to them to then put this story into context to today?
I mean, 1955 is the year that my mother was born. I think about that all the time. And my mother is 67. And I think about the older women who died in Buffalo. I think about Uvalde. I think about Makia Bryan. I think about Trayvon Martin. I think about the names just like persist. And we shouldn't have these kinds of names. So it's not 1955, it is 2022. And it is everything in between the dash between 1955 and 2022. And so when you go in there to see the film, people will have, these experiences of thinking about the women, the mothers who have to get on screen and talk about the loss of their children in the same way that Mamie had to talk about the loss of her child, and had to do it before all of this became deeply media driven. So she's the progenitor of not only the civil rights movement in that regard, but the progenitor of had the prescience to engage media in the way that she did, so that she could inform a global community of what happened. And that's the same stuff that's happening with folks who have lost their children today, unfortunately. And so this is to rally the call to say, this is not done, this must continue. And this is a narrative that shows the details, the intimacy of what Mamie Till's experience was.
Oh my God, absolutely. Oh my God, that gave me so much to think about. I hope when people leave this movie, they are inspired for change, inspired for activism. But what advice do you have for people that want to make a difference, but they don't even know where to start or where to begin?
I guess it is about educating oneself. I think that you look to learn from all kinds of spaces. And I mean, you look to media, you look to books, you look to community organizations. I mean, the easiest thing that I can think of is helping your fellow your fellow human being right next to you. This connects in so many ways to beyond just what it means to seek civil rights in a certain kind of way. This is a women's rights issue. This is a because we think about the presumptions and the difficulties that were laced on Mamie Till as a result of being a Black woman, a respectable Black person, and how she tried to move through the world and the limitations that were put on her. This is an LGBTQ trans rights issue. Everybody is seeking civil rights at the bare minimum. And so I think on a day-to-day, it's just about communicating with our fellow human being and being what we wish to see in the world, truly giving that kindness. And then it will snowball you to the place that you need to be. It literally has to start as a from within kind of an experience. And then you can connect to other folks, and other organizations that are already doing the good work.
I love that. I got the wrap. I wish I could keep talking to you. Thank you for the time and the words of wisdom and this story. So thank you for telling it. I appreciate it. And I hope everyone sees this movie and is moved. So thank you.
Thank you.
Paul McGuire Grimes, ABC, Minneapolis. Chinonye, I am so honored to talk to you today. This movie is so incredible. And I love the angle you took at telling Mamie's story and having that narrative. It is so powerful. And I even cried, and I don't typically cry at movies. It really got to me. So thank you for the time today.
Thank you, for sure.
Yeah. Now, you've been attached to the story for many years, and I'm curious, when did you first become aware of Emmett Till's story, and when did you know that you wanted to bring it to the big screen?
I knew about what happened to Emmett Till from childhood. It's like you grow up knowing about it and being told about it, especially being a Black person in America. And the producers approached me 3 years ago, so about making this film. And so I knew that if I had the opportunity to tell the story through Mamie's perspective, then this was a story that absolutely needed to be told, because it is her journey. It is the activism that she did is the reason why we know who Emmett Till even was.
Oh, absolutely. I'm really curious to know, for those that say that maybe watch this and be like, oh, well, that was 1955. That was a different time, because I've heard those arguments before. What would you say to them to then put it into context for today?
Well, I will say that for a couple things, the fact that we are in 2022 and there are states that are actively putting into legislation making it illegal to even talk about anything related to the queer community, LGBTQ community, and anything regarding race and confronting the history of white supremacy that is rooted in this country, it makes this story that much more necessary, because this is history that is actively being erased, and it's also history that continues to repeat itself into, today. And so my approach to making the film was to really make it a film that people won't see as a period film, that we really can see our present moment, our present realities reflected in the story.
100%. I mean, I thought about so many people that it affects today, and I'm gay, so thank you for mentioning that as well. You were talking about activism. I'm hoping that when people see this movie, they are inspired for change, they're inspired for activism. But what kind of advice do you have for people that maybe don't know where to begin or don't even know where to start with that?
Well, one of the things that Mamie has said in real life and says in the film is that 1 month before Emmett was taken from her, she was in her own bubble. She was in her own middle class bubble, and she's like, you know what? I have a good life, and she was not concerned with Black people in other parts of the world, And then when her son was taken from her, it just completely blew up her world and put her on this trajectory of of activism and advocacy. And I tell that story because I think that's inspiring for people in audience who will see the film, people in our world who are like, what can I do in my own way that can contribute to the world? And I think that we have to figure out, whether we might think it's small or big or anything in between, we have to figure out, how can I even affect one person? How can I expand my own worldview, my own understanding and consciousness about the isms that pervade this world and that affect me as well? And so we can figure out a way, big and small, within our own world, within our own means and abilities, to affect change.
I love that answer. Oh my God, they gave me, okay, yes, absolutely. Now, I want to go with something a little bit lighter, but Whoopi Goldberg is such a force in this industry. I know how she's inspired my life, and I'm curious, what do you take away from working from next to an EGOT as a producer and actor in this story?
Whoopi in general is phenomenal. As a producer, she was 100% supportive of my artistic vision, my artistic autonomy. I felt seen as an artist, a human being, and as a Black woman from the very first moment I met her. As an actor, she just humbled herself completely to the process and was so directorable and just really gave herself to the work, no ego. And so it was amazing working with her as a director. She was phenomenal. And hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Of course. And I'm sure there's things you could hear that you would never be able to tell ever.
The improv, man.
Yeah. Oh my God. Now, I'm curious. So what did you learn about yourself throughout this process? Because I think we're always evolving and changing as people.
Yeah. Well, I learned a lot about a history that I didn't know about. I never heard about Dr. T.R.M. Howard or Mound Bayou and the history of Mound Bayou before making this film. And so there was a lot of information about different freedom fighters who were critical to freedom movements that affect us today that I just really learned a lot about, and Mamie's story is so inspiring as another Black woman. And when I was first approached about this film, I was the age Mamie was in the film, 33, and that was a few years ago, but I was just so
I know the feeling.
Right. I saw myself in her journey, and she was someone who was, in her mind, someone who before her son was taken, she was just living her life, and it was just such a humanizing life, and I could see I was just inspired, and it reminded me that I can figure out in my own way how to continue to affect change and be an advocate.
Absolutely. I got the wrap. I wish I could keep talking to you. Thank you for the time. And thank you for bringing Emmett Till to the big screen. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. You take care.
Thank you too.
Bye.